the agenda for today is about resource management, right? So I'm going to give an overview of how we do this session, and then we do like a quick icebreaker so that we get to know each other. And a lot of people today, I think we all know each other somehow from other activities or other sessions, but there will be a chance to interact with each other. Then Andrew is going to cover the main topic about resource management and look at the PMBOK. Then we'll have the Go Retro session. So we go into this Kanban board online, and I encourage you to check it and open an account. It's very easy to sign in. So we do, some questions there and discussion. And after that, connected to that, we have an open discussion in small groups. We do a breakout room. And finally, we do the PMP style questions and answers. And it's the time to also talk about the answers that you think are most appropriate and why. So we encourage you to really participate and to bring your questions, your answers, your experience around project management. Okay, so we are facilitating today. So my name is Liliana Nakamura. I am certified in project management and human resources. I also have an MBA and some other certifications around change management. And currently I am working in talent management consulting, and I'm also doing some career transition consulting. So that's me. I've been in Canada for about 9 years now. And I also do a lot of mentoring and volunteering for Unstoppable Me and LPMN. So I will let Amanda introduce herself very quickly.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Amanda Cisneros. I have a bachelor in engineering and also MBA. I got my PMP as well. And right now I'm working for Scotiabank in project management. And so I have been in the banking sector for around 10 years and also in other industries such as airline and transportation. And I'm doing some volunteer as well in Unstoppable Me and also with LPMN. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Amanda. And Andrew as well.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you this evening. I'm a Scrum Master in TD Bank, and before that, a project manager working in corporate risk, software application platform projects. And looking forward to helping to facilitate the session this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and just to be clear, I think many of you participated already in our sessions, but the format of the whole session will be interactive. So it's all about, discussing these topics, the resource management topic for today. And we'll have like an open lean coffee style discussion about project management, and we'll be referring to the PMBOK guide as well. So yeah, feel free to, say, your thoughts and give us some questions if you have any comments in the chat as well. It's the session is for you, and it's for everybody to build it and to really enrich each other in terms of the knowledge that we have around project management. Okay, and guidelines. So we have about an hour and a half, so 90 minutes total for the duration of the session. The communication or our environment is Zoom, of course, and we will be using Go Retro as well. And principles for the session, as I said, it's all about sharing, collaboration, like open communication. This is a very safe environment. I also encourage you to do active listening and to clarify when needed, and also active participation. Okay. So we go with the icebreaker. And this is a small breakout session. So we'll do this in pairs. And these are some questions to encourage discussion, right? So this is very free and very kind of, free flowing. You can talk about your dream vacation. So what you will do after the restrictions are lifted. And or if you could travel to another country, which would you choose? Okay, so choose one country and share why. If money were not a consideration, how would you spend your days? So that's interesting. Okay. And what is one goal that you plan to accomplish during your lifetime? So that's more in depth, I guess. So yeah, so choose one of these questions, for yourself to share. And also, you can ask the same question to your partner, or discuss other things. So Amanda, I think you're going to make the breakout rooms, and we're gonna do.
Yes, so that would be 5 minutes. Viviana,
So
5
yeah,
minutes,
we
okay?
have
Okay, so we are 9.
I guess once you have all the rooms, you're gonna open them, and each person will see like a small box saying join this room, and just go.
Just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, we are good now.
Okay, now you see the little square where we can join the rooms. Thank you.
Hi, Brenda.
We have a minute still.
Ay, es cierto, es que se me olvida, Iván, perdón.
It's fine.
Great questions, by the way, whosoever developed that slide, great questions.
We have to thank you, Google. we found the template, so yeah. So happy that you enjoy it.
Yeah.
I forgot to tell you, Rodrigo. So hopefully your kid gives you, or your son, it gives you a lot of hard time at the beginning. Because apparently, if they give you a hard time when they are babies, they're much calmer when they're older. Like, yeah, apparently, Yeah, we'll
Thank
discuss
you.
that later.
Thank
later.
you for
But,
the advice.
yeah, but apparently that's the case. Yeah, and then there is some science behind something explanation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So welcome back, everyone. Okay, hope you had a nice chat. I think next we're going to cover the content. So I think Amanda, you're going to share the screen. There's a few more slides and Andrew will present.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Liliana. So Andrew, do you want me to share my screen? Or are you able to do it?
I'll give it a shot. Let's see if I can share my screen.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Great. So welcome everyone to our resource management study group for this evening. And we have a few notes that we'll go through in regards to what's in the 6th edition of the PMBOK. What I'm showing here is a screenshot from the process groups. So what we have are 6 process groups, and as you see there, they are listed from planning resource management to estimate activity resources, acquiring the resources, developing the team, managing the team, and controlling the resources. So to give a Coles note, a quick summary as to what these 6 process groups perform, I have a couple of notes that I have on the side here that we'll go over. So first off, for planning resource management, this is essentially, as it is stated, you're creating your plans. You're referencing into the outline of your project management plan, where you will have your scope, your schedule, and different areas already started. And for resource management, at this point, you want to consider how much management is required. Are you working in an enterprise, in a big corporation, where there are tens of thousands of employees, executive suites, and so on? Is this a boutique, a firm, where you're within one floor, maybe one room, and there are a handful of people on your team? And depending on the size of just the team or the size of the company, this is going to help you consider the tools that you'll use and the extent of how much work you're going to have to do. So, for example, if you're working in a big size company, then you're likely going to have functional managers who know their team and understand their experience level, so that when you go and submit an intake request for whether it be engineers or designers or business analysts, you're going to have a manager that's going to be able to provide you support from a team member based on what your project is doing. So on a skill level and also on training, because in companies, you don't want to just simply have people do work that they understand. You want to give them stretch goals. You want them to be able to advance and grow in the company. Now, to do all of this in terms of keeping track of these items, you have what's called the responsibility assignment matrix. And I have a slide next that we can go over a little bit more in detail on what that is. Last, in terms of planning, there's also the consideration of agile. And typically in the beginning, you'll have a team agreement, which will walk you through what the team's guidelines are and your values are. And you would normally do this also in, let's say you're developing the team, which takes into consideration the forming phase. But I'm mentioning it at the very beginning because this is one of the first steps that you do, building the team in Agile, which plans all the time. So the next process group is estimate activity resources. So from here, you're going to, again, refer to your project management plan overall, and you're going to pull out your activity list, which is going to come from your scope management. So at this point, ideally, you would have had something already written out. You're going to look at existing cost estimates. So if you have done this a similar project before, you're going to refer to that or just refer to your subject matter experts. And from here, once you know who it is required, you're going to look at resource calendars and their availability. Now, when putting together the cost, it's not just for team, it's not just people, let's say resources or team members. You're also considering non-people resources. So if you're working on a construction project, you're going to think about your building materials. If you're working on, let's say, a real estate project, you're going to think about maybe contracts, maybe housing listings. And what it would cost to, let's say, procure some of this research data. So it's both. And this can be all put down into a resource breakdown structure or an organizational chart, which we'll get into in the next 2 slides. The third is acquire resources for process groups. So once you know who it is that you need or what are the inventory items that you'll need to gather, you need to negotiate your contracts or your assignments for these resources, people or non-people, and also for external, if they're not within your organization, or if they are within your organization, to get assignments. You also want to consider, especially nowadays, virtual teams, time zones when working with offshore team members, or people who wake up at different times. And for the virtual teams, this poses some unique challenges because you don't have that co-location or that face-to-face interaction, which also makes a huge impact in terms of communication. So that might be also something to consideration when allocating people or creating a budget, is how much time or buffer do you want to add into that? What is the availability if you're purely virtual, and what new opportunities does that bring for bringing people who may not be geographically close to you? So the next process group is developing the team. So you've built out the plan, you know what you need, who you need, now you have them, they're in your meetings, and you want to implement team building exercises once you've gathered everyone. And there's 5 phases to team building: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjoining. And we'll go through that in the 3rd slide up ahead. From building the team, typically you're going to have to go through interpersonal skills required to managing a team, such as conflicts, collaboration, and decision-making. And that in itself, you'll find a lot of material online and in colleges, universities, on how to do just this. And again, co-location and communication channels also need to be considered when developing your team. Managing the team is the 5th process group here. So once you've built up your team, you want to now make sure that there is some continuity in what you put together and how the team has agreed to work together. So to evaluate the condition of your team, you have team performance assessments. And it can be completely up to you if you're the project manager with the sole authority, or if you're working in a large organization, you can have help with functional managers, team managers, and that can be done in cooperation. The interpersonal skills, just to kind of zoom in a bit on this, typically there's a whole bunch, but I've called out 3. So coaching, you'll want to do that because you want to support your team. And if, depending on the training plan that has been put together or the skill sets that the team is looking to build on, you want to pay attention to that and look to support it, either by yourself or finding someone who can help to train that team member. So that's between you and the team member. For conflict resolution, that could be between you and the team member or between 2 team members within themselves. So you want to understand different methods in bringing about resolution and understanding the different perspectives that might persist. And lastly, emotional intelligence, which is what EI stands for. It's important to not only understand people's perspectives, but your own. And when you're able to be self-aware of your personality and how your preference of working is, you can compare that to others. And there are as well guidelines in terms of how to tend to the different needs of individuals based on their personalities and so on. So for Agile, This is typically brought about during sprint reviews and retrospectives, to call out those two ceremonies. So on the sprint reviews, that's more a performance assessment, where you're looking at what was completed and sharing that with everyone, all the stakeholders as well. So up to executives if they're present. And retrospectives, that's more private, where you want to have just the pod, just your team that is working on the ground, so that they can share what's going well and what needs improvement, and have that psychological safety as well. Lastly, in the process groups is control resources. So from here, you want to review the project management plan and assess your resource utilization. So we have the triple constraint: scope, cost, and time. And considering your peripheral considerations or your peripheral other knowledge areas, you want to consider, if you're running out of budget, who's a team that you're able to support, for example. There's a lot more to it, but that is the main point. And to do this, you want to use data analysis. So trend analysis, for example, if you're going to look at your budget at completion, if you're looking at cost, if you're looking at training plan, how many modules have been completed, and you want to correct variances. So if you're off in any case, you always want to make sure that you're finishing at targets. So that's the overview. And if you have any questions, please note them down, because we'll be entering them in the Go Retro. I'm going to quickly go through this just to be mindful of time and allow everyone an opportunity to state their questions. So here is an example of a RACI chart. And this is essentially for governance, so that you're not, and I have a cartoon of Spider-Man meme, which is, I think, pretty popular. Maybe everyone's seen this one, where you have the Spider-Mans pointing at each other and no one's taking accountability. So you don't want that in a project. You want to make sure that people know what their roles and responsibilities are, so that they can work within their boundaries and they can work more collaboratively, knowing where the handoffs are. And so from here, the responsible person is the one who's going to be doing the work. The accountable person is the one who owns the work. So if you're going to point the finger at anyone, it's going to be at the person that's accountable for the work. And over here, where it shows the project manager, you can see that they're mostly responsible, because the project deliverables are project manager work. Whether you have build deliverables under the execution phase, you'll see that the project manager is no longer the one responsible or accountable. It's the team members. So your tech leads, your functional leads, your subject matter experts. And the last two are consulted and informed. So if you're marked as consultant, you're typically a subject matter expert, and people are going to you for advice. And if you're informed, you're just someone that needs to be kept in line or aligned with what's going on. Maybe you're a third party interested member, stakeholder, or just a manager who's keeping track of on a portfolio level. So the second one is SME activity resources. So this is the RAM chart here. And what it has here are your individuals, your team members. This can also be non-people resources. So if you want to have an inventory list with their price, then you can come up with your total budget for both team member and for inventory items. And you compare that to a timeline here so that you can provide allocation. And you know if someone's absent or unabsent, how to be able to backfill, for example. There is also a resource breakdown structure, which I'm not showing here, but it's similar to a Gantt chart that you would see in MS Project, where you would have a timeline and you would have within each task a certain amount of duration or effort for that task. And then you can tally it as well for a given month. This is how much effort or hours are required, and you need people to fill in for those hours. Lastly, this is for developing the team, which is where you will have your interpersonal skills. So from forming, this is where you have people who may not have worked together and they're coming on board. There may be a bit of anxiousness amongst them because they're completely brand new and they are unaware, a lot of unknowns. And from there,
Andrew, can you zoom out a little bit from this slide, please?
Zoom out?
Yeah, just for a better vision. The text is very small. I'm not sure if it's the same case with everybody.
I think I can. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for mentioning that.
No problem.
So forming, everyone's coming together, everybody's new, there's a bit of anxiousness, and that's perfectly normal. And in this chart, you'll see that effectiveness runs up the y-axis, and performance is improving as time goes on through the x-axis. When you're storming, you're essentially learning about the differences and what people do differently from you. And so that becomes a little bit ineffective because you now have to learn a new way to work and learn about the cadence of the team, how long it takes someone to respond, get something done. And when that's understood, you're now normalized. So you're all on the same thing. You understand each other, and you start to then perform, and you pick up effectiveness because you're able to do less churn. You're not doing a rework. You're not kind of going back over what you've done before or wasting time sitting idly because you're not sure when someone's going to be available. And when you're performing, you're pretty much aware of how long it takes John to respond to an email, how long it takes Claire to come up with a design, and then you yourself are then aligning your own work habits to finish when they're done. And so you're not burning yourself out, and you're also not kind of wondering what's going on. And then finally, you adjourn. So everyone at this point is fully connected, and you've built strong relationships, ideally. And at this point, you then want to be able to acknowledge that you're going to be bringing apart the team and moving on. There may be a bit of sad feelings of having to say goodbye to someone, but it's also a good way to find closure and to close the project and celebrate. So those are the 5 phases of forming a team. And now I will bring it back to Amanda to continue on with the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, so now we are going to go to our activity in Go Retro. So let me share my screen. And for those that are new in our Kanban board, so I put in the chat the link so you can create the account. The good thing for Go Retro is that the account never expires, so no worries about that. And once you have the account, so you have to go to our Kanban board, that is resource management. So if anyone has any difficulty, please put in on the chat so we can assist any question that you may have. And so the idea for those that are new in our Kanban board activity, so the idea is, as you can see here, we have add questions. So we are going to start creating questions regarding resource management. So at the beginning, all the cards will be masked, so anybody won't be able to see the questions. So after that, I'm going to unmask those cards and we start voting for the ones that you prefer. And once we are gonna vote for those, so we are gonna have 5 votes in total, each of us. And then the question with that has many votes, that would be the one that we're gonna move to the most voted questions, and then we start discussing all the questions. So please go ahead and start writing down the questions. So maybe we can have 2 or 3 minutes.
Are the cards masked right now? Because I see one that is like visible.
Okay. Let me see.
I think on the settings cog on the top right menu, you can hide comments. Well, I just tried to click on it.
Maybe it's this one.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
have that
perfect. Yeah.
option. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. So maybe 1 more minute. Okay, maybe I'm going to unmask the questions and we can start voting. So we have 5 votes in total, each of us. So maybe we can start voting. Couple of seconds. Okay, so I'm going to sort them by votes so we can see which ones are the most voted. Okay, perfect. So this is the first one. Oops. Oh, oh, I guess I did the same as you did before, Ivan. I don't know where it goes.
Right there. Yeah.
So, but I lost one of
One.
them. Yes, it has
Who's
4 votes.
who's
I don't know.
whose card it was? It doesn't say it.
Yeah, no.
Uh,
So that is the problem. I usually want to match the cards.
no, keep it.
So, but where it goes?
I don't know.
So if someone has the sorry about that, but if you have the question, please put in the chat. So
Underneath.
underneath.
Under, yeah, right there.
Perfect.
Right there.
Okay, here we go. Okay. So maybe I can add this one. Okay, perfect. So maybe we can start with this one. So what is the best approach to manage virtual teams? Please exclude tools from your response. I'm gonna... Okay. So who is going to want to start? Provide some ideas about that.
I can start. So virtual teams are unique for sure in terms of presence. And I'm sure for those of you who have kids in school who have to log into a class and use a webcam, probably some of the kids aren't showing the webcam, their faces on the webcam. Maybe some of them aren't paying attention. And in the office as well, after some time, you kind of get that Zoom or that WebEx burnout where you just don't want to turn the camera on anymore. And that's a lot different than when you're in person, because there's a lot more energy to help you stay focused, ideally, in what's going on either in the classroom or in your conference room. So being aware of that, and just like you would have a team agreement in the beginning to find out how people prefer to work, you want to bring that and have that explicitly stated as well, so that you're able to rely on everyone on the team to kind of keep you focused on what's going on. So the first suggestion that I would make is have in your communications plan, an agreement in terms of, are you going to keep the camera open at all times? Maybe people want to have the camera off. Have that known so that people aren't kind of wondering, well, why is this person not present or not? Another thing is be appreciative of availability, because in a virtual environment, perhaps someone isn't as available in a given time, and especially if you're working outside of regular work hours, which some people are doing now. And then lastly, probably just be comfortable with silence and allowing people time to think, because they're probably in a different environments. Maybe they're distracted by kids, or maybe they're maybe multitasking, and you want to just give people the time to be able to gather their thoughts and then to work with a webcam.
Thank you, Andrew.
I can build on the same, some of the things that Andrew touched upon. So in a global organization, I think virtual project management is a reality. So it happens all the time. And COVID definitely has exposed everyone to this setup where we've gotten used to working virtually. And what I've seen from my past experiences, when I used to work with, project team members sitting across different continents and countries, you have typically a set time for a daily stand-up kind of a meeting. So it's basically very short, 30 minutes meeting for a project team of 6 people, let's say. You discuss, what is the agenda for the day, what you've accomplished in the previous day, and what the bottlenecks are. You have that very clear line of sight. And touching upon what Andrew said, about video versus not using video. I mean, during these COVID times, I've kind of, out of curiosity, asked some friends of mine, how do they have, because in my organization that I work right now, banking, we don't have video interaction at all. We have audio. In fact, to the extent that this is, if the guideline says that it's comes under sexual harassment if you expect others to join into a video conference, because everyone is working from home, we know that, and people are taking care of multiple things. So video is not really asked for. So you got to understand the environmental factor or the organization, the way it works. Some places it's totally okay to have video. I'm talking to some of my friends else where they say, no, video is what they do. they don't do audio much. So you need to understand the nuances of the organization and the setup where you work, and then a very efficient set of meeting to go through, what you've achieved, what you plan to do and for the day, and then what are the bottlenecks. That daily catch-up kind of brings together the team on the same page.
Thank you, Pratik, for your comments. So I guess it's as Andrew and you mentioned, I guess it's very important to have an agreement with the team. Speaking from my experience right now, so we usually have a daily touch base. So it's just like a very 10-15 minutes just to make sure if we have any roadblock from prior day, or if there is something urgent to tackle today. So that would be the time to do that. And also, so after, so maybe we can have we usually have virtual drinks. This is what we call it. So it's every month. So all the teams are come together, and we have some activity just to have some fun, and it's not work related. So just to have a face to everybody, right? Because most of our team, nobody knows in person. So that is a time that at least we can open the cameras and we can see each other, and maybe we can exchange some experiences, what we like, what we don't like. So some fun facts about us, and we can exchange. So in that build the team environment in the group. So that is I would like to add. So I don't know if anyone else wants to add something, or the person who write down the question is satisfied with the responses.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Radhika. So
I just want to note, I don't want to share my screen because I think as Radhika said, the question is answered. But just for reference purposes, on the PMBOK on page 340, that's where you'll find them note about virtual teams.
That will be helpful. Thanks, Andrew.
Well,
perfect. Thank you, Andrew. And so the next question, so finally I found it, so is, how do you motivate volunteers, interns, or underpaid team resources? So who would like to answer? That is a very interesting question, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyone?
I can give it a shot. So volunteers, interns, and unpaid team resources. So I think what we're saying is that if you're paid, then you're going to want to do your job. And if you're not paid, then what is the motivator? And there's a few HR theories out there that I'm trying to pull from my memory, but ultimately, from my own experience, what I would say is it's about the self-actualization, what it is that you're going to be a part of. And so Maslow's hierarchy of needs thinks about your physiological as a base. So you have safety, you're not going to get attacked by animals, so you have shelter. And then as you go up, you move into other things like security and psychological safety. And then you get to the point where you're at a social level of needs, where you're bonding with people, you're making relationships. And that in itself is a motivator. And one of the benefits of volunteering is that you're able to be part of a team, part of a group that have like-minded individuals doing something good for society. And if you go a little higher with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you get to self-actualization, where you're able to find, aside from affiliation, achievement, and you're able to become that person that you aspire to be in your mind. That kind of reminds me of Matthew McConaughey's Oscar award speech, where he talks about envisioning himself 10 years in the future, saying that's the guy I'm going after. Anyhow, so I think that's one motivator when you're not paid, is that you're either able to be around people that you can build relationships with, or you're able to realize a goal and find fulfillment from either helping someone out or helping yourself out.
Thanks, Andrew, for mentioning Maslow's theory. I'm also a huge admirer of that theory. My 2 cents on this question would be, first can be that we can make the volunteers have a vision of sight on what value addition they are bringing to the table. Because if a person or a volunteer at the end of the day is made aware about the competency that he's bringing, I think that acts as a positive way of motivating. Second can be, it should not always be the pull strategy, that what am I pulling out of the conversation? It should always also be push strategy. What am I giving to the group? So if the person is made comfortable with push strategy, I think the motivation level will automatically increase. So that's my second point on this. And
would you mind expand on that idea, the pull strategy and the push strategy?
Sure. So I learned about it. I think I read some blog a long time ago. So at the end of the day, whenever we are participating in a conversation, it should not be a pull that what am I gaining, or, you know, what kind of information I'm getting out of it. So I'm pulling that information, but our mindset should be developed in such a manner that what can I contribute? So that's the push strategy, that what value addition I can contribute, or what, by what effort I can make a difference. So that balance should be there. It should not always be pulling strategy. I hope, Ivan, I could clear that.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. And last but not the least, I have a personal experience to share. If I'm been given that opportunity, in non-pandemic time, I did volunteer for United Way at the CN Tower at 5 a.m. in the morning, where they have this activity. You have to climb the tower using the stairs. It's a non-for-profit organization initiative. Many CEOs and many directors, C-level executives joined that initiative, where it's a fitness sort of activity where you're getting an opportunity to climb the tower. So when I had put this volunteering upfront on my resume, I got this very valuable input from one of the interviews a long time back, that this shows the commitment and the enthusiasm that I bring to the table. So the volunteering efforts don't go in vain. It talks a lot about your personality traits. On that note, I'll end. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Interesting, Radhika. Thank you so much for sharing. I guess it's very interesting that that strategy. Yeah. So I don't know if anyone else.
I think just thinking to what Andrew mentioned, it goes back to the higher levels of the Maslow's hierarchical structure. You have to have that, growth, learning, or accomplishment mindset in these circumstances. And I speak from my experience of having worked with Unstoppable Me for 2 years, leading this project management session. I think that's the biggest motivation that I had. There were times when there were just 1 or 2 attendees in the middle of the session, everyone busy with their office work and stuff, but even then I had to show up. And because I kind of first and foremost enjoyed being with fellow learners, it gave me an opportunity to go back and study after having given the exam and passed it long time back, the material, have some intellectual discussion, engage at that level, and just that whole experience was very enjoyable to me. So that pushed me to be there each and every time. And then for some underpaid team resources, yes, at times gifts or the potential gifts down the line in terms of that underpaid converting to a full-time role or something of that sort. For newcomers, especially in Canada, you have these kinds of internships in the beginning, which might lend to a full-time role. So they work wonders. Rewards always work wonders, right?
Yeah, and by the way, in the PMBOK guide, I think it's on page 341, you can find the motivation, the definition. Motivation is providing a reason for someone to act. So it's not just money, as we all know, and teams are motivated by empowering them to participate in decision-making and encouraging them to work independently. So I guess, like interns, for example, in many companies you have them, and they gain experience, they get exposure to different practices. So that's a good way, for them to keep motivated and do their best. And later on the same page, you see something about recognition and rewards. So yeah, it's good.
Just to expand on Pratik's idea, he says something very important, I find. He say, I enjoy a lot that activity, in spite of being tired and so on, right? So that's something that is very important, I find, right? So how you gonna motivate someone to volunteer? I guess if that activity is it's the activity that he likes, that the volunteer is willing to do because he or she is enjoying, it will be much easier, right? Like that's key. It needs to be enjoyable because either they believe in that activity, right, or they're gaining something as well. So that, I think that enjoying part is very important for keep the volunteer motivated, right? That enjoyment all around.
Yeah, and when you're managing a volunteer team or interns or anyone like that, you can also ask them, about their goals. What's your personal goal? What are you looking for in this opportunity? So that's the role of the project manager or the boss or anyone who can, be there managing them.
I just want to quickly add another motivation theory that I usually try to remember in my head is there's three of them: autonomy, mastery, and purpose, which is what you guys are exactly saying. But usually there's theories around those three principles, which help me remember them.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Pratik, Ivan, for sharing. So I guess we are running out a little time, so maybe we can have another activity into breakout rooms. So maybe we can continue with the next question, and we can share into the breakout rooms. So maybe we can discuss how to ensure whether all resources are motivated throughout the project's life cycle. Is there any technique to measure motivational level? Or maybe we can discuss how to manage project delays when same resource is assigned to multiple projects, or anything else related with resource management or project management you want to bring to the conversation. That would be great. So let me now to create the breakout rooms. So maybe we can.
Hello.
Hi, Diego.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Jaime, how are you? So, well, so I don't know. Diego.
Hola, Amanda.
Hi, Jaime, how are you?
Good, good. I'm observer just today.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm multitasking.
Okay, perfect, no problem. Okay, Diego, do you want to discuss one of these questions, or do you have any particular
Yeah, of course.
question?
That's a good idea.
Okay, so maybe one of the questions says how to ensure whether all resources are motivated throughout the project life cycle. Is there any technique or measure motivational level? So I don't know, from your experience, do you have anything that you want to share? How do you motivate the teams throughout the life cycle?
Yeah, I think that when we were discussing previously about online teams, they were mentioning that having some activities involving the team members out of the work environment, it helps a lot. In previous experiences, I had that opportunity, and you know, when people go out for having dinner or maybe having a beer, they feel comfortable and they can express what they really feel. Sometimes when you are at the office or you are having some team meetings, you don't feel comfortable expressing what you don't feel comfortable with. But when you go outside of the office or you are in that environment that is free, or you can feel free for sharing what you really think, you can get a lot of information. So I think that's really important. And also, if you are leading the project, you need to make sure that you have contact with the subgroups or sub-teams leaders. Sometimes it's difficult to have a relationship or communicate constant direct, communication with all the team members, but if you are able to communicate effectively with the leaders of the sub teams that you have, that's going to help you for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I guess we need to celebrate those small achievements throughout the
small wins.
Yeah, small wins throughout the project. So that way people knows that we are making progress, that that we feel that we are part of the team, that we made something and we continue working towards to deliver successfully the project, right? So I guess those small wins makes a huge difference to have all the team motivated, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And then I think both of you have good topics. I would say that with motivation happens the same thing that we have with rewards and recognition. So it's important to understand what is something that motivates the person. You know that in some cases, for example, having bonuses or money rewards is okay. For other occasions, time is better to have half a day off or a full day off, etc. And in different scenarios could be like we have applause and note, something send it like email recognizing a good job on the spot. So it will be different things that we have to do to motivate the team. So we need to know what is the motivation for every member and try to accommodate the process of having that recognition, the small wins and the big ones as well. With that information, depending of, we cannot have everybody, I would say, with the same motivation tool, but then it's important to identify those and then have the team motivated. That's what I would say.
Yeah, completely agree.
Right. Yeah.
So we are talking about, Pratik, about how to ensure that all resources are motivated throughout the project life cycle, right?
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So anything that you want to add based on your experience, how you motivate your team to keep moving and
Yeah, I mean, depending on the context of the project, yes, every project goes through the highs and the lows, right? So important to understand as we go along the project in terms of understanding the next steps, where the challenges lie, and working closely with the team members. My experience, for example, in the past, when my project team had challenges working with the operations team, getting the right support, getting the right data, was to again get together in a group, understand what the problem was. Then within my team, different people have different personalities, so understand the problem and then use the advantage of different personalities to conquer and win. So I had some people who had very good experience of 10 plus years, but they had very shy personality to not be able to reach out to others and talk. But there was this other gentleman who just came out of a MBA college, fresh, not much industry and experience, but very vocal. He could talk and reach out. So giving them assignments where I could utilize their strengths and partnering them together to get the objectives of the project. Those were things that helped me in those difficult circumstances.
Yeah, I agree, Pratik. Okay, thank you so much, and hope you have enjoyed your conversation and talking about a little bit more about the topic. So now we are going to go to the PMP style questions. So over to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, team, time for some fun study questions. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to bring up the poll. Oh, Amanda, do you have the poll? Do you have access to the poll?
Give me 1 second, Andrew. Can you try now if you're able to launch the poll?
I don't see it on this profile, no.
I see the poll. It says.
Oh, Liliana, are you able to launch the poll?
Poll 1, like this, I think. Oh, I see all the questions in one, but I don't know. I launch
there's a
it.
launch button.
I can launch it and see what happens. Let's see.
Yes, please.
I can see that.
There you go. Yep. We got
Yeah.
it.
So it's all the questions in one, so you can just go through them.
I have it where I have to click. Yeah, I have it where it's one at a time. So
okay,
I'll read out the question.
Okay.
You promoted your star programmer to share his expertise, his or her expertise, and lead a team, but he or she is not meeting your expectations. Which empirical rule did you forget? Expectancy theory, Peter principle, Pareto concept, or Murphy's law? Liliana, do you see if people responded?
Not yet.
It looks like we have to answer all the questions before we can submit.
Ah, okay. Is that for everyone else? You can't
submit
yet?
Yeah, because the submit button is not available right now. Yeah.
Okay, then let's continue. Question number 2. With the start of project execution, a PM needs to acquire the development team. The sponsor indicates that one of them is unavailable. What should the PM do to understand the proposed team members' future availability? Look at the project documents, contact the team member's functional manager, review the resource requirements, examine the resource breakdown structure. We'll give a few seconds to respond, and then I'll move on to the next one. Okay, we ready to move on? Well, I think
Yeah.
people are still thinking. Okay,
Yeah,
here's
let's
one.
not overthink.
Yeah.
Question number 3. Recently, excessive use of flex time has become a roadblock as some team members are not available when needed. How should you handle this situation? Contact HR to update the corporate policies to prohibit flex time. Submit a change request to update the team charter based on the team's inputs. Discuss the issue with the team and update the team charter accordingly. Do nothing, as the team has already agreed to use flex time for personal emergencies only. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Hopefully that was enough time. Question number 4. A project is underway, nearly complete. The schedule reserves are inadequate to cover the resulting delay from the unavailability of the key resource. What should the project manager do next? Update the resource management plan. Submit a change request to update the schedule baseline. Submit a change request to update the cost baseline. Terminate the project since the project objectives cannot be met. Okay, and last one, question 5. A project has slowed due to unexpected changes. It has been decided to implement the planned risk response. What should the project manager do first? Revise the assumption log, order another machine as a backup, update the schedule baseline, update the lessons learned register. And since we're on the last question, I imagine that you all can now submit your responses.
Yeah, I see people submitting. So 4 out of 8. I think we have 7 out of 8 voters. Oh no, now we have everybody. So I'm gonna end the poll. Let's see if you can see the results. Can you see?
I can.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I'll go through the slides as I can see the responses here. So for question 1, the answer is B, the Peter Principle. That's a tricky one. Most people went with expectancy theory. So the Peter Principle states, in a hierarchy, every employee tends to rise to his or her level of incompetence.
Can you please repeat that, Andrew?
Sure. The Peter Principle states, in a hierarchy, every employee tends to rise to his or her level of incompetence. Sounds a bit harsh, but essentially, it's saying that, well, people are flawed and that you need to consider strength and weaknesses. Let's move on to the second question, if we can. So this one is stating, most of you, 50% have said, examine the resource breakdown structure. And the answer is A. So 2 of you picked it. And that is look at the project documents. And the project manager is about to start the acquire resource process. The project documents include the resource calendars, which serve as an input to the acquire resource process. Okay, question number 3. So here everyone chose C, discuss the issue with the team and update the team charter accordingly. And all of you are absolutely correct. The team charter is a document that records the team values, agreements, and operating guidelines, as well as establishing clear expectations regarding acceptable behavior by project team members.
Andrew, I have a question here. So what will be the difference? I guess I answered correctly, but I have what is the difference between this one and the previous option, like submit a change request to update the team charter based on team's input? So to me, that's very similar, the same.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ivan. However, I don't believe you need a change request to update the team charter.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's the difference. Submit a change request. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, question number 4. Let's see, majority of you, 75%, chose B, and you're absolutely correct. Control resources is the process of ensuring that the physical resources assigned and allocated to the project are available as planned. With inadequate schedule reserves, the schedule baseline must be revised in order for the project to continue. Therefore, of the available options, submitting a change request to update the schedule baseline is the best response. And question number 5, half of you chose revise the assumption log, and half of you are correct. The answer is A. This situation presents an additional assumption for the project. The assumption log is a project document used to record all assumptions and constraints throughout the project lifecycle. Assumptions should be captured in the assumption log. Okay, so those are the answers, and I think we can move on. Okay, so now we've reached the end of our resource management study group. I'd like to thank you all and remind you, in case you've forgotten, or if you're new, which I don't think you are, how to claim PDUs for this 1.5 hour session. So going to PMI, logging in with my PMI on your dashboard where you have the report PDUs button, you'll then have the option of selecting informal learning from your education section. And then from here, you want to type in the information as follows. For organization or group, it is the Latin Project Management Network. The course is Project Management Discussion, Resource Management. On the screen it shows scope, but this is resource management. The contact person is Jaime Gonzalez, and your contact email is board@lpmn.ca. Today's date being March 16th, and you have this under technical PDUs when you're claiming your PDUs, and you just check off you agree your claim is correct and submit.
Andrew, could you please zoom up that image?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Whoops, didn't mean to do that. I lost the page. There we go.
Got it, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we're reached 8 o'clock, but before you go, please remember to kindly fill out our survey. This is how we are able to learn from you, and we want to be able to make the best study group that we can for you. I'm going to add it in the chat, and if you could kindly take the time to fill in your responses. So with that, I'd like to say thank you all again for joining our group, and Amanda, Liliana, any other final comments you would like to offer?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you everyone for joining us, and please join us next week The topic will be communication management, and also join to our LinkedIn group as well in LinkedIn. And so we are going to upload the PMP style questions as well, so you can take those questions as a reference if you need it. Thank you so much. Have a good night, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Have a good night.
Have a
Good
good
night.
Amanda.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.